Hello, citizens, and welcome to the first formal episode of 2025 with your host, me, Chris. I am a poorly informed, highly opinionated, unreliable source of data. And what I'm going to be doing today is using that unique. Who am I kidding? It's not unique. Using that position to pontificate, extort, and educate all of you. I don't think I could have made that sound any more sinister, but there you are. Welcome to episode 1. So I would like today to talk about, at a high level, Menhirs Fate. For those of you who don't know, it's a brand new Fast LARP coming in 2025 that is actually looking quite good. Now, what's the best way to describe this? I've heard feedback that this podcast is perhaps an alternative view on events in the LARP sphere, or blunt, or perhaps not well considered, and that USP is going to continue going forwards. And what I mean by that is that in the Menhirs Fate context, I've seen lots of people shitting on it. I've seen a lot of complaints, I've seen people grumbling, I've met them, talked to them about it, and I think some of the issues they raise are fair enough. Things like the details have now come out, and the nations are pretty cool. It would have been nice to have them sooner. Technically true, but I'm a LARPer. I've got the kit. I'm not really that bothered. Things around like the site and what's going to be on there, how it's laid out. Again, those maps have come out. There's questions that have been answered around that, but again, nicer would have been sooner. And I think, from what I've seen, and please, throughout everything I say in this episode, refer back to the first 15 seconds. This is a sweeping statement podcast. It's not based on fact. Is that a lot of these issues I feel are going to be sorted out during or post E1, and fundamentally, I think it's going to be a really good LARP. From the lore perspective, I think they've kept it vague in a good way, and what I mean by that is that, from what I understand, broadly, there's nations that have all bonded together after the fall of wider society due to some dark power. And then this Menhir itself is a magical rock that, it's like Geodude on crack, that allows us to teleport to different places and deploy us, the heroes, to go and fight the darkness. And one of the fundamental themes of the LARP itself is around colour, so it's going to be really colourful and bright, and the way those colours are applied change varying on the nation. With the top end of the spectrum, there's 9 nations, 3 groups of 3. The top third is sort of the brightest, middle third are middly, and the bottom third can lean towards the darkness. And I think that it's wonderfully straightforward, and it's going to give lots of creative people, who are typically LARPers, right, a really cool chance to make some cool kit, have a cool time at the event, and maybe lean a little bit away from the PvP elements, and it feels a lot more PvE. And I personally haven't played anything like that before at a fest level, and I think the idea of going in as a super cool, awesome hero and beating the crap out of some cultists would be really dope. I've heard talk about demons and stuff like that, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed there's going to be some really cool special effects and some really cool monster suits that we get to see, because I'm very much like a combat chimp when it comes to LARPs. I love fighting, swords, shields, archery. I tried blank firing in 2024 for the first time. Blew my mind. Absolutely awesome. And the idea of getting to go with my mates to these kind of events more often than just going to Empire 4 times a year, for example, I think that's a good thing. And it's a brand new company, it's a brand new business, and what they're trying to do is address let's say the old guard of the UK LARP scene and bring something that's a bit more modern. They've talked about there's loads of much better podcasts you can go and listen to. I think Hefty Hefty is one of them, for sure, and there's stuff on YouTube, and there's great Discord pages. You can just go and dig around for yourself. And what I found from doing that is that the combat attitudes are really cool, the nation attitudes are really cool, and that we won't be limited in sort of internation alliances. It's going to be based more around guilds. So let's say I'm in nation number 1, I think that's called Avaro, and you're in nation number 6, which is Urdavan. They released a pronunciation guide. I haven't bothered to read it because, again, refer to the first 30 seconds of this podcast. But the point being is that there's nothing really stopping us interacting. Culturally, we're all quite mixed at the event, and we can go off and go and beat the crap out of cultists and demons together. And sure, we can start to create that cultural identity as the events go on. I think that certainly feels like some of the intent. There's some flavor text and blurb around the races. Sorry, not the races, the nations on the website, but they've talked about a few identifying pieces of each kit. So Adrevan is, I think it's like stargazing or something. So you've got a clear stamp on who you are and where you're from, and that might inform people's opinions on what you do. But it's not fully codified, and I think it's going to make a really interesting mixing pot once we get onto the pitch. The combat rules themselves are absolutely dope. I can see it being a very high casualty style of event. I have seen one, is it called Crush? Or something similar, where it allows you to go through plate armor, but not through, I think, light armor. So, and the way you build your characters, you have to spec quite heavily into what you want to do. So if you want to be like a heavy fighter, you can pick up armor and everything like that. It can be tough to kill, but it limits your ability to be a murder machine. Or if I want to be an archer, it limits my ability to wear certain types of armor. But I can also build characters that are designed to take on heavily armored, plate armored knights with shields, for example, and just go and cave their skulls in with a big club. And that sounds really cool, and I haven't seen that elsewhere in systems where it's lovely and simple, with a very simple call-based system. I think it's still global hits, and something that scared me about other LARPs is locational hits, having like hit points which vary with armor. And then there's like magical types of stuff as well. Like I remember using calls for a gun-based system that was this was years and years ago, and it was aim at someone's head, make eye contact, and yell double through flaming head. And double was the damage. Through meant it went through armor. Flaming was more effective against mummies and stuff like that. And then head was the location. So as a recipient, as a monster in that scenario, you'd have to do that literal quick math. 2 + 2 minus 4. And understand what's happened to your character. React. All while 30 other players are yelling something entirely different at you. And one has got a belt-fed machine gun. It was extremely difficult, and it totally pulls you out of the immersion. But when broadly the fighting is done with skill and parrying with a shield and slashing with a sword, that kind of action, it feels cinematic, it feels cool, and I love it. The occasional call to sort of represent you caving someone's skull in, mwah. Icing on the top of a cake with a cheeky cherry there for good show. So I'm a really big fan of the combat rules. I'm a big fan of how vague the nations are, and we're going to let the players kind of sort it out. But I mentioned the guilds earlier as well. So the guilds, I think there's like assassins guilds, there's a banking guild, there's going to be an adventure guild. Everything they've said around those is really cool, because I think it is going to attempt, bear in mind this is a brand new LARP, so some of these things might not work, they might get changed, but I think the attempt here is really pure, and it's really positive, is to provide some kind of in-game plot, and to help give you some structure to the little quests that you might want to create for yourself or other LARPs, but you'd have to entirely self-power. So, let's say for the Assassin's Guild, there's like a murder mechanic that people can opt out of, which is great, because some people don't want to die. That's not their style of fun at LARP. Cool. You can opt out. Great. You get a choice over that. But for the people who are like, yeah, I'm up for it, let's go, it gives them a little bit of warning to set up something dramatic. So if you're going for, an arch rival, a business rival, and you're like, right, they've outmaneuvered me, and it's time to bring death and misfortune upon their family, they get a little bit of a pre-warning. and they can gather themselves and some thugs, maybe some mercenaries, sort of form a really cool cinematic defensive circle in the middle of a market square, and basically yell, "Come at me!" And then these assassins who want to be those, super edgy, hyper skilled kind of characters, you get a genuine challenge to test yourself against. And if you win, you get a bounty, and if you lose, well, try again. Just like Helldivers, just dive, 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 and dive again and again and again. And I'm really looking forward to engaging with that. I've heard rumours around the way they're going to do admin is you carry a little passport, and doing things at the game's operation desk. So God, you basically bring that in, scan that, and you get an in-character interaction whilst you're doing admin of changing a skill maybe, or submitting gold to the bank, that kind of thing. It's taking all of the OC mechanics that need to take place at a LARP, because it's using rules and mathematics to replace physical ability, which is really cool and accessible, but at the same time giving you a bit of plot and not taking you out the game while you do so. Just little tweaks like that, and I think that is so cool. And some of the people involved in the project as well are long-standing figures in the LARP community. If you look at the Eversley crew, they've been running events as well. So Johnny and Kitty, I've played a lot of their games, and I think they are superlative. And the fact that they're involved in this as well has given me a lot of confidence for its success. And to conclude this 11-minute and 42-second rant is, again, we're going to skip back to the first 30 seconds, where this is my personal opinion. But I have a strongly held belief that whatever happens with Menhirs Fate, the more time it gets, and the more people visiting, and of course, because it's a business, right? The more people who buy tickets and show up. Yeah, I think the site is scaled for more than 4,000 or 14,000. I think the site's absolutely massive. The more time they get to experiment with their mechanisms, and the more money they get to invest in it and build it as a business, I think they're going to absolutely crush it, personally. I think they've got the attitude and the flexibility to succeed, where perhaps other Fest LARPs haven't. I think other Fest LARPs are very good, but they've been very good at doing the same thing for a while, and there's not been much innovation in the sector. And I'm feeling very corporate in the way I describe that. But again, if you don't know me, I work in sales. I'm like a super techie guy, and this is my life. I look at everything from bloody HR and legal systems to finance. It's really wonderful to see some of this coming through, some of this freshness and this keen energy for improvement coming through to my hobbies. And in conclusion, I think you should wholeheartedly bite your lip when the easy opportunity to spread some salt comes, and in fact respond with a little bit of Shattersong LARP Diary positivity and say, you know what, maybe the first episode isn't going to be so good, but I'm pretty sure they'll get better, and what's on the table right now is an appetizer, and boy, does the main course look good. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that, and if you disagree, please feel free to message me on Facebook and send me nasty messages. Feel free to make posts calling me out for my bullshit. Please feel free to dox me, or find my address and turn up at my house, and we can have an epic Duel of the Fates kind of style on my staircase. All of those options are open and available to you. But 2025, let's be positive about it. I think it's going to be really cool. And you know what? If it's wrong, and it sucks, then I was wrong. And again, find my house, beat me up. But until then, very much look forward to talking about some of the nations in a bit more detail next time, talking about kit, talking about some of the lore a little bit more, and also just getting excited about cool cultists and getting to Monster in a whole new system where the bad guys is just like a blank slate. Mwah. Anyway, this is long enough. Thank you very much for listening, and I will catch you next time.